Hi, and welcome to our webinar on 12 quick tips and helpful hints. A common thing that I hear when I talk to customers is that they don't know what they don't know. And as such, we'll be going right back to basics for each topic to make sure that you're all fully informed about each section. So let's start on today's topic, 12 quick tips and helpful hints. Jim2 is big, really big. As a result, there are a lot of features and shortcuts that are tucked away that are underused or not used at all. Today, I'd like to take you through quick tips that you can use in your business to save you time and effort. You may have spotted some of these in our regular quick tip emails, but even if you've seen all of those, I should have a few more things in here for you to use. Number one, search in a stock grid on a job. Jumping straight in, if we go to a job that has many lines of stock, you may need an easy way to find a particular piece of stock. Maybe you need to increase the quantity for the stock or to change the line to a different piece of stock altogether. You can do this very easily by pressing first in the stock grid and then pressing Control and S. A window will appear in which you can choose either the stock code or description field and even a bunch more. And you can enter a value. You can also make this search case sensitive or choose how exact the match is. An exact match will check only for what you have entered in the value field, whereas a partial will allow you to choose a part of the name or description to search for. Number two, insert new line. Staying on the job screen and in the stock section, did you know that there are a number of ways to insert a new line? As most of you will know, you can press down arrow to get a new stock line at the bottom of the stock grid. But did you know that you can push insert to add a line above the line you have selected? Really handy in grouping similar items together or slipping in another stock code that was previously forgotten. Number three, upload document from clipboard. Okay, let's say you want an easy way to have a document available in Jim2. Instead of having to move through Explorer windows and locating the file in the folder directory, you can use the Windows clipboard to help you out. This tip is helpful for our cloud customers, but is also useful for anyone that uses Jim2. All you need to do is locate your document, press Ctrl C to copy it, and then once in Jim2, click this button. It is unlabeled, but if you hover on it, it will say Add Documents to Jim2 from Clipboard. You will be prompted to select a few pieces of information, but some will autofill too. The name of the document and where it will be coming from is automatically populated, so you'll only need to include any other details that you want included. I do recommend that you spend some time making up groups for documents, which act as effective folder locations to help keep your documents organized. The final point for this one is that you'll automatically link the document to the object that you have open. By this I mean if you have job number 88 open, it will link to job 88 unless you tick the checkbox in the corner, rather uncheck. Number four, up and down arrows. This is one of my favorite features of Jim2 and so many people are not aware of it. Before I knew this, I would take up a lot of time by looking at an entry in a list, having to close that entry to then open up the next entry. To solve this, we've implemented a couple of arrows at the top of the screen. By going into a list and then selecting an entry to view, we can see the arrows are now highlighted. If we click the down arrow, you will move to the next object in the list. And if you click the up arrow, you'll move to the previous entry on the list. For the people that love a keyboard shortcut, you can use Control and full stop to move down and Control and comma to move up. I will add a couple caveats here though. The arrows only work from an object entry that's been accessed from a list. Also, if the list is ordered by a column, you change the info for that field in an object, and the list refreshes, the position of that entry will have moved. So if you push the arrows, you may not get the next in the list that you may expect. For example, looking at my list, new service jobs, we can see that the list is organized by name, and we can see a number of entries in the field for someone named JC. If we change this one from JC to FL and then force a refresh of the list, when we push the up and down arrow, it will move from the job's new position in the list. So when working on lists in this manner, be cautious of any automated refresh times that you may have set up, as well as knowing about how the list is ordered to avoid missing entries or duplicating efforts. Number 5, right-click list entries. Did you know that if you right-click the entries in a list, you'll find several helpful options? These options will generally affect every entry in the list, so do be careful when using them. First up, we'll take a look at the options in a job list. We have auto pick stock, which will show you the availability of stock as a percentage against each job. You can right click and auto create purchase orders from the list, which will look at each job in the list and then find what stock is not yet available or what's been set to back order, and then create purchase orders. There are also options for you to be able to set the status and due date for the job too. But you do need to be extra careful with these as I mentioned, they will update everything in the list. Taking a look at the card file list, you can right click and then find options for changing the non-report groups and region groups. There are some other things that you can also export, including the card file data, the contact data associated with the card files, and the card files non-report groups. I know I fit a lot of features into this single tip and didn't really get a chance to explain a lot about why you might want to use them, but I'll leave some links at the end of the webinar if you want to learn more about them. One other thing to mention here is that your staff may have access to these features depending on how you have your security set up. An easy way to learn if they do or don't is to simply log in as them and see if the options work. If they do and you'd like to restrict these abilities but are unsure of how, please give our support team a call. Number 6, adjusting columns in a list. You may not already be aware that there are more columns available in most lists when you right-click and select Grid Columns. To include these entries in a list, you can simply drag it to the location you would like in the available columns. The green arrows will indicate where the new column will drop in. If there's a column that you do not wish to use, you can drag its header down into the results area and the column will be removed. I will mention that if you're on our latest version, Jim2 4.4, you have access to 2 new columns in a stock list. One is the average cost of stock and the other is the last cost. So now you can see this vital information by simply creating a list. In fact, while we're looking at lists, there are a couple of more things that I can show you here. You may already be aware that columns can be rearranged by clicking and dragging. But a lot of people don't realize that you can group by column also. Just by dragging the column header a little bit up into the group section, You will then have the list grouped by the entries in that column. For example, in the job list, if we choose to group by name column, we can see how many entries are present for each user. This is really handy for finding jobs that may have slipped through a crack while someone was on leave, or if someone leaves the business, you can easily find all objects related to them. And finally, after you've adjusted the columns to be where you would like them, you have two options to save the list. The first is to add a pin. This will save the list for yourself, but if you want to share the list with other Jim2 users, you can also save as a published list. This will then allow you to push it to other users. I have been over how to best use this functionality in a previous webinar on lists, which you can access on our website in the Learning Resources section. Number 7, show available quantity on quotes. This one is only for 4.4 users, but you can show the quantity available in stock when creating a quote. By navigating to Tools, Options, and then Quotes, we'll find a checkbox named Always Show Quantity Available column in Stock Grid. If this is ticked and then we go to a quote, we'll find a new column called Quantity Available. This is a great way to keep on top of what you can already cover in terms of stock and what you'll need to order if the quote is accepted. Number 8, see sales history per customer while adding stock. Did you know that when you're adding stock to a job, you can also check the history of what that customer has purchased before? This one is hidden in plain sight, but can be handy for checking what a customer has ordered before adding it to the job. Maybe it's a really specific part, or it could be that they're just particular about a style or brand. Either way, if you click the ellipses in the stock code field, you can then click the History tab above the search results. This will show you all stock that this customer has purchased before. The list will be organized into any report level groups that you have set up, but be aware that if a customer has not purchased something from a particular report group, that group will not show in the list. Number 9, refine your global search. You may not be aware that you can set the global search to only check specific Jim2 objects. At the top of the navigation pane, you'll find the global search field. Just next to the magnifying glass is a couple of down arrows that will offer more options for your searching. You can see that we have some objects already selected, but they're a little bit tricky to read them here, so let's click Search For. In the window that appears, you can select which Jim2 objects you'd like the global search to check. You can expand the arrows on the left of the different entries to show more options for each of them as well. Looking in leads, which may be called quotes or something else in your system, we can see that we have the search now set to search the quote and lead, but not yet the comments or emails. We can simply tick those to have them included. I will let you know that when search is referring to email, it means that it will search the same as what you can see in the comments grid, or what we call the email summary. The search cannot search the entire body of an email at this stage due to technical limitations. And if you don't like the results that you're getting after changing these settings, you can click Default and it will return the search options to how they were set up originally. Then we can click the Navigation tab at the bottom of the nav tree to return to the standard Jim2 screen. Number 10, visible scroll bars. Next, we have a really quick one. In 4.3, we introduced scroll bars that hide when they're not being used. There were some mixed feelings about this, so if you're not a fan, that's okay. In 4.4, you can change it back to static scroll bars. All you need to do is click Jim2, User Preferences, Jim2 scroll bars, and in here you can choose between auto hide or solid. Number 11, organize your nav tree. We're all used to using the nav tree on the left, but did you know that there are a few hidden tricks here too? For example, you can click and drag the main entries, which will let you rearrange the order of the entries. This will also change the location of the tabs at the top of the screen in the ribbon too. I like to keep email towards the top of my nav tree so I can see any new emails that may have come in. As a bonus tip, you can also quickly close the entries under a single header, or you can close all entries that are not pinned with the click of a button. Right-click and select Close Child Nodes to close only the nodes under the header you right-clicked on. Or if you choose Close All Nodes, it will close any open objects or lists that are not pinned. This is pretty handy for when you have been working on something that's involved a lot of different objects or customers and you just want a fresh start to your nav tree. Number 12, purchase order validation. As this is the last tip for today, I wanted to wrap a few hints in a couple real world scenarios. Let's say you have a staff member out in the field and they've just needed to purchase something for a job, so they need to lodge an expense order. Luckily, our business has thought ahead. They have their accounts at businessname.com email address set up in Jim2 to both send and receive emails. So all our staff member needs to do is grab his phone, send an email with a photo of the receipt to that email address, and it will arrive in Jim2. So now we have an email and a photo in Jim2, let's create an expense order. All we need to do is to find the email in the list, right-click, go to Create, and then select Expense Order. Okay, so now we've got an expense order and we have the email attached to it. To make it easier to see the attachment, let's drag it over to the comments grid and a prompt will come up asking you to add a document. Note that there is a tick box letting you know that the file will be linked to the PO. Actually, that's good to know about too. You can click and drag any attachment out of an email and have it attach to the object you're dragging it to. As long as there is a comments grid, you can do this. The benefit of this is that instead of having to look through a list of emails that can get quite long, instead, you can just click the Documents tab to find the document. Leaving our expense order for now, let's see how we can use this function to help us validate a purchase order. So we can see that we have a purchase order that has an email on it that we'll pretend has come back from a supplier that contains our invoice. Let's first drag our invoice into the comments grid. Actually, I'll show you another feature. Because I've been practicing the webinar, if we drag this over, it doesn't always come up with a please replace this document. We'll skip that tip for now and I'll see what's gone wrong. So we can then go to the Documents tab and look at our invoice directly. The benefit of this is because it's no longer associated with an email, we can have it open in the preview screen while going back to work on our PO. If we slide this divider across, we can increase the size of the writing to make it more readable. If we then click the Purchase Order tab, we can then fill out any information that we need to from the sheet directly, such as vendor invoice number or the invoice date. Also, we can validate the order by checking that what they've delivered is the same as what we've ordered. Wait a second, They've only delivered black toner when I've ordered a whole lot more. I'd better get on the phone and find out where the problem has happened. Well, we sure covered a lot today. We covered the up and down arrows that help you move through lists, how to upload documents from a clipboard in Windows, and how to see the sales history for a client when adding stock, and loads more. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for attending today. I'll add a link to our survey webinar to chat, and I'll leave some information on screen about how you can get in touch with us. Now, I'd like to introduce Ian, who can answer any questions that you might have about these quick tips. Thanks.